Okay, this video is for ways to solve equations, or ways to find roots, or ways to find zeros. And all of these mean the same thing. So basically when I'm solving, I'm finding what value of x, or whatever variable you're dealing with, will make the equation true. So I have a couple of types of ways I can solve. The first way we learned is to solve by using the square root. Okay, and there's two types of ways that we looked at, and the first one was like if I had x squared minus 36 is equal to 0, I could add 36 to both sides, and so x squared is equal to positive 36, and then I take the square root of both sides. And so x squared can either be, or x can either equal positive 6 or negative 6. So that's one situation. Another situation is where I have some quantity that's squared. So for instance, I have 2 times x minus 7 squared minus 31 is equal to, and let's just say that this is going to be, let's say it's going to be equal to 113. Okay, so in this situation, I was trying to figure out one that I could do and that would work out for us. So in this situation, I want to isolate this whole quantity that's squared on one side by itself. And what that means is I want to have x minus 7 squared on this side of the equation by itself. So I have to undo everything that's around it. And by doing that, I have to do the inverse of order of operations. So in that case, I have to add 31 to both sides. Plus 31 is equal to 144, and then at that point I divide by 2. So I come up with 144 divided by 2 is 72. So here I have a square on one side and I have a number on the other. So to solve this now, I take the positive and negative square root of both sides, or square root of both sides. And so I have x minus 7. So when I take the square root of the square, it does away with the square. And then I have plus or minus the square root of 72. And I have no idea. I think it's 36 and 2. And so 36 is a perfect square, so I have plus or minus, and I'm going to take 6 out of the underneath, and I'm left with a 2 underneath the radical. So at this case, in this situation, I need to add 7 to both sides. So x is equal to 7 plus or minus 6 radical 2. So that is one way to solve. So in this situation, I have x is equal to positive 6, x is equal to negative 6. Or I have x is equal to 7 plus 6 radical 2, or 7 minus 6 radical 2. So that's one way. Another way is by factoring, and that's just where you have the situation that we had earlier, and I have x squared plus 6x minus 40 is equal to 0. I'm going to do the x factor again, and this would look familiar if you watched the previous video. And so I have x plus 10 times x minus 4 is equal to 0. So then I have to set each individual factor equal to 0. And so I subtract 10, so x is equal to negative 10, and then I add 4, and x is equal to 4. So that's another way. Another situation is whenever I had to use the x in the box, where I came up and I factored out 9x squared minus 24x plus 16, and I used the x and then the box because a is not equal to 1. This was 144x squared, negative 24x, negative 12x, negative 12x. 9x squared is my first term. My last term is 16, and then I enter in negative 12x. And you can slow down the video, stop it to see what I'm doing. Factor out a negative 6. I'm sorry, not negative 6, negative 4. Factor out a 3x. Factor out a 3x, and factor out a negative 4. So in this case, it's 3x minus 4 times 3x minus 4, and we were solving, so I have to set that equal to 0. So 3x minus 4 is equal to 0, and then it's the same, so I'm only going to have one solution. So I add 4 to both sides, 3x is equal to 4, and divide by 3, and so x is equal to 4/3. Now, this would be a situation where the discriminant would end up being 0. So, and you could solve, you do b squared minus 4ac, and when I plug it all in, the discriminant is going to equal 0 because I have one solution, and only one solution. So, that's kind of how you solve different equations. Now, you're going to run into the situation where you're going to have to use, if it cannot be factored. So, cannot be factored. And there was one like this on your diagnostic test. Then I can always find the roots or find the factors by doing the quadratic equation. Negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac over 2a. And if you are struggling with this, there's a video that's specifically designed that you can watch, and it's on how to use the quadratic formula to solve equations. So hopefully that'll help you a little bit.